The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, I don't know if they can hear me. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Jim Seaver, and also have Teresa and Jasmine Randall in our room for us. And we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. We want to make sure that everyone has time to get onto this broadcast. And attendees. Where do I start?
Sharon. Next one. Sharon. Mm-hmm. Who are you?
Yeah. Is it started?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Jim Seaver.
Play button.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Jim Seaver, and we're here for the driver acknowledgement training. Just as a quick check, can you all hear me out there okay? And can you see my screen?
Yes, this is Phyllis. I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Phyllis. I just want to get some confirmation. Can you see my screen, Phyllis? It should say welcome. What are you looking for?
Yep.
Okay, very good then. So we'll get started. First, I'd like to apologize for last Wednesday. We were having some technical issues regarding the webinar, so we think we've got that all straightened out. So again, appreciate your patience. And this should only take about 30 minutes, so we're sensitive to your time. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, you're looking at the screen now as if you were just to log into the DOS main screen. And there's several different ways you can access the training. First off, if you just go to learn about DOAS, you can just click on fleet management. So that's one way you can do it. Or you can just click on the tile here, fleet management. You can click on that. Or what was the other way? Or you can go down here to fleet management and fleet fuel cards. So we'll just click on the fleet management tile here. And when you come up to see the cards, you would just scroll down and you would go on to fleet fuel cards. If you'll just click on that tile. And then under the fleet fuel cards section, if you'll scroll down, you'll see that there's two tiles here. You'll see fuel card driver acknowledgement and the driver acknowledgement list. And this is where your drivers are going to go. Here is a fuel card driver acknowledgement. That is the actual training. And the driver acknowledgement list, that's what you will use as a tool to see who actually has already taken the training periodically. So we'll just go click on here to go through the actual training. Here you'll see the welcome screen. Just tells you a little bit about the training, the consequences for making personal purchases. And if you'll just click on the next button right here, this is where you'll see a review of the policy and the actual training video. This is the actual training policy. I'm going to click on this and it's actually going to bring up the policy for drivers. And this is about 11 pages. It's certainly a subset of the actual fuel card policy that we've had in the past. That's still available, but primarily for the fleet coordinators and the fleet managers. But you can see this is the areas for the policy that we covered for just the drivers. So our expectation is they would actually go in here and read this policy and attest that they have read the policy itself. Now going back, they will have to need to either select that I am a student enrolled in a structured volunteer program, or if they are a state employee, they would just check this box here, okay? They also will need to check the box that they've certified that they have read and comply with all the provisions within the state fuel card standards and guidelines for drivers. And that's the policy that we just looked at. Here, you can click this box because it is required. You're going to have to check both the boxes, as well as the state fuel card standards and guidelines, the training video. And if we click here, I'm not going to actually go through the video, but I just wanted to show you where it was at. When they get to the actual video itself, they would just click the arrow to get it started, and it takes about 15 minutes or thereabouts, 15 to 16 minutes to go through, and it basically covers the same topic areas as the actual policy, but just in a video format. So once they do both of those, they would just then click on that they have viewed and completed the statewide standards and guidelines training video. So you should have, each driver should have 3 check boxes before they move forward. And then they would just click on the next button here. Here they would select the organization, and here just have them be careful. This is a drop-down list, and they would just find whichever agency that you are part of. And I'm just going to click on one just for the sake of putting one. And then they would just type in their name and their email address. And on the PIN number, since most of your drivers are already going to have PINs established, they would go ahead and put their PIN number here. If they don't have one, that's okay. It's not required. And then you would just sign your name. And I know this is could be a little quirky, but just do the best you can. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not that good at it. So, yeah, and again, I wanted to make sure, just I reemphasize one thing here, is to make sure you do or have your drivers select the correct organization, because in our pilot testing, we did have a couple of folks that actually picked the wrong organization, and that will impact your search. When you go to see who's attested to the training, they're not going to show up under your organization. So just emphasize they do pick that organization correctly. And then just click on the submit button. And here, please do not close out this screen. I want to make sure, because you want to download the copy of your acknowledgement certificate. And this is where you're going to get your certificate right here. This is just additional information. You know, you can go to the fuel card standards and guidelines, or the fleet manual, or how to use the WEX fuel card at the pump. But this is the part you really want, is their certificate. So if you just click on that link, and right down here is your fuel card acknowledgement certificate. And you can just open that up. And as we're waiting for it to open up, and there you can see the certificate acknowledgement that you have taken the training. This is also date and time stamped in the system, so you know that the training is, you've been there and you've completed the training. Here, you would just click on the down arrow to download, and you can just save it to wherever you want to save it. And that's pretty much it for the actual training itself. So we'll go back. Let me just and so here I want to show you, as the fleet manager, where you can go to look at to see who's actually taken the training and completed it. So if you click on the driver acknowledgement list, all you really need to do is just select the organization. And what was it called, Georgia? Department. Right here. So I'm just going to pick on our agency here. And you can put in a last name or an email address, but I'm just going to leave it pretty wide open and just click on the search icon there. And now you can see the list of folks that, from our department, who has already taken the training. Now, if you want to export these results, you can. You can just click on the export results. And you can go here and put it up into an Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see the list of names here. The organization, the acknowledgement date and time, and their last and first name. And this is what you can do to compare to your full list of drivers, which you can export out of WEX Online by just going to WEX Online, and under the Fleet Manager, you would just click on View Drivers, and you can export that list. That will be all of your active drivers, and then you can just compare this list who's taken it versus the list of totals to kind of keep track of it. Additionally, we're going to be sending out a report to you at the 30, 60, 90, and 120 day mark of all the folks within your organization that have actually taken and completed the testing. So does anyone have any questions?
I do, Jim.
Okay.
This is Teresa.
Hey, Teresa.
I found that when you're going through the page signing up for the testing and you click the 3 check boxes, you don't actually have to click on the video to be able to go forward to say you've done it. Is that going to be different when it goes live?
No, the way you see it, it's a little on the honor system. So, but what they are attesting is that they have viewed the video and they've read and understood the actual policy. So if they're just clicking through it to get through it, they are attesting that they have done that. The driver, that is. Did that answer your question, Teresa?
Teresa, you there?
Yes, I'm here. My system keeps muting it automatically. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. But
All right,
Bennett's got a question too.
Okay.
we get an employee that says he's taking it, can you all search through the database if he's clicked the wrong person and then move them?
So you're saying, hi, this is Jasmine.
Yes.
You're asking if they chose the wrong organization when they were attesting, and you don't see them on your list here, but they do have a certificate?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. If that happens, you'll want to have the driver call this number right here. You'll see under the contact us page, and create a ticket. Once that ticket is created, we will go in the back end and change that organization. Now, the certificate, though, will remain the same, but we can go in and change the organization and then tell you to pull that report again, and it'll update that report. But they will need to call this number and create a ticket so we can do it on the back end. So that's why
they'll know immediately that they made that mistake because it's showing the wrong agency.
Well, no, they won't know immediately because their certificate only shows their name and that they've completed it. They will not know immediately. You will know when you do a search here and their name's not there, right? So let's say scenario, you take this list, you've taken your driver list out of WEX, and you've reconciled those two lists together, and you see and it populates a list of names who hasn't taken it. And I would imagine that you would then send an email to those folks and say, hey, it's the 31st day, I've got my report, you're not on it, please go in and take it. Then a driver comes back to you and says, hey, here's my certificate, I did take it. At that point is when you and the driver will then be notified or realize that they've selected the wrong agency. So at that point, you'll reach out to the contact center so we can move it.
Okay.
Does the driver have to reach out, or can we reach out from Fleet?
Either one is fine. Either one is fine. We just need to have that ticket created because we have to go in on the back end and fix it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Mr. Quinones from New Horizons. I know we spoke about contractors. Have we spoken to BDHDD about that?
We actually have our meeting today. But I would imagine though that's gonna be a process. So for now, contractors will still not attest. The contractors will remain continuing to use the fuel card as they are. We will work individually with DBHDD, DHS, and possibly a few folks from public health to manage a time frame for that process. So that will not be something that we do publicly. We'll do it together, but we'll do it one entity at a time.
Right. What I'm asking about is because I know that you said that after a certain period of time, those codes will be inactive.
Right. We will not deactivate those cards.
We will not.
Yeah, those PIN numbers will not, for those agencies that Jasmine just mentioned, we will not terminate those PINs at the 120-day mark. We're working that as sort of a separate project, and we'll be working directly with those impacted agencies. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, now my next question will be and again, I have not went through the website and I see you. Do they need access to the website, or is just as they go to the DOS website, they could just see that?
Yeah, it's just a DOS website. It's not a secured, it's a public website, so they should be able to access that. Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. That is
You're
all.
welcome. Thank you. Yep, great question.
Oh, and speaking of that, let's mention too, we've had in the pilot a couple of folks reach out about the tool either having some issues or not pulling up at all with different browsers. So we've tested each browser. We've tested Internet Explorer, we've tested Chrome, we've tested Safari, we've even tested Firefox. What we've noticed is that Chrome gave us the least amount of problems with all tools and all downloads. Now, technically, the tool works in every browser, but technology sometimes is sensitive like we are and has emotions. So it seemed like it was less emotional with Chrome than it was with the other browsers. So if the first time they go through it and maybe they're using IE or using Safari and it seems to give them issues, tell them to try Chrome. If Chrome is still being emotional, just as emotional as the other ones are, then definitely reach out to that number, that contact us number, and we'll look through it. And also, pay attention to your PDF reader as well. We've had a couple of agencies that use something other than Adobe for their PDF reader. We have tested multiple PDF readers, so it should be compatible with all of them. But we've had to walk a couple of people through kind of the technical side of their PDF reader. So just keep in mind that every entity uses its own technology. Each agency has its own kind of favorite systems. So just keep that in mind as your drivers are going through it. Don't panic. Test out more than one. If you've done a test and it's still not working, definitely reach out. I have an iPhone. I've done the attestation. You'll see my name in there a few times because I was testing in different systems. So Safari did work for me. Internet Explorer was the one that was a little emotional. When I went through Chrome, it was a lot better. But we have tested each browser, and we've tested more than one PDF reader. So like I said, just kind of try a different one. If the first one gives you a hard time, and if it's still giving you a hard time, then feel free to reach out to us.
And this is Teresa. I have another question.
Go for it.
Will that certificate be available to the person who has taken the test if they fail to print it when they're on that screen? Is there a way to go back and get it?
Yes, they'll have to reach out to the contact center. They have to call this phone number right here or send an email and just say, I forgot to print out my certificate or I can't find it, and we can retrieve it and send it back to them.
Okay, good. No. But that should be on them anyway.
Great questions. Anyone else have any questions?
Jim, we can bring up another scenario that we had during the pilot. We found that there were some folks that went through the attestation more than one time. So we want to try to minimize that as much as possible. When we pull down the report that we're going to send every 30, 60, 90, and 120 days, when we're going to just literally pull down a report of everybody in your organization that has attested. So if you see that name there more than one time, that means that they've gone in and taken it twice or 2 or 3 times, whichever it is. So we want to find out before they take it again, before they take it a second time, have a conversation with the driver to see what the issue was and why they felt like they needed to go back and do it again. If they do it more than one time, it will record it each time. So we want to make sure we minimize that as much as possible, and that just creates less work for our side and your side. Even if they realize they've chosen the wrong agency or organization, before taking it again, reach out to that contact center number here so we can go on the back end and fix it. Okay, we just want to make sure that, on both ends, our end and your end, that there is less duplicates as possible. So as the numbers continue to grow, there are over 60,000 drivers in the state. So as this list here starts to get bigger and bigger, it's going to take a lot of work to reconcile names, email addresses, and agencies. So we're still working on a really good way on our end to be able to help you recognize who has chosen the wrong organization, because like Teresa mentioned, the driver really wouldn't know until the fleet manager does their reconciliation and sends out, I would imagine, a mass communications to those who they think have not. So we're still working on a way to be able to recognize that for you, other than in your reconciliation process. But the way we can really help minimize the number of duplicates is to ask your drivers not to go through it twice. Once they've gone through it, if they feel like there's an error somewhere, that they reach out to us so we can see if we can fix that error on the back end before having to go back through the attestation. And you'll see under this contact, you'll see this number, and this is an email. If you click it here, it'll bring up a draft email. That's on every page in the lookup tool, as well as in the acknowledgement tool. It's the same number. So you want to just make sure they reach out before we do it again. Let's see if we can fix any issues they think on the back end before we have them go through the attestation more than once.
Are you all going to dump the people that have been playing in the pilot program? Are all those names going to go away?
And what you see now is the live version. We already dumped the pilot. The only duplicate name you should probably see there is maybe us. You see Jim more than one time. You probably see my name more than one time. You may see Michael's name more than one time. But I mean, we're only going to come under the DOAS organization. So you would not see our name anywhere else.
And if you did participate in the pilot, or if you had several of your drivers that participate in the pilot, they won't have to go back and reattest, even though they did it as part of a pilot. That's still valid, so they won't have to do it twice. So
It will still count.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
it will still
yeah,
count if they participated in the pilot.
Yep. No, they are good.
Okay, good.
Great questions. Any other questions?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Can you please refresh my mind and when is this starts and when does it end?
Sure. The start date is October 1st, which is tomorrow. The 120-day mark is January 28th, 2020.
Gracias.
Thank you. Great question. Any other questions?
You know what, Jim, I wanted to mention too, the question about the pilot, those who went through the pilot. We have dumped the pilot names out of the lookup tool. So for those who did participate in the pilot, you won't see your drivers listed because we've dumped that data. So you should have only sent maybe 10, 12 folks through the pilot. We do have that list. We've downloaded it and saved it. We can send that back out to you so you can just maybe manually add them to your spreadsheet because we don't want them to do it again. But we did dump the data out of the pilot so it would be fresh. So you would not see those names if you were to search that now. You wouldn't see their name there. So if you did have drivers that went through the pilot, shoot us a quick email. If you need those names sent back to you, and we can do that, we can send those names back to you so they don't have to do it again. In case you didn't save it somewhere. We did send out a report, a mock report, to each fleet manager. So that report would have the folks that went through the pilot. We can resend that as well. So just reach back out to us if you need that list again.
I'm glad you said that. I didn't realize that.
I have a quick question.
Go for
Hey,
it.
being on a college campus, I have multiple people with the same common first and last name. Besides using the PIN numbers, is there another way that we could use maybe the employee number?
Well,
And
no,
actually-
you can use the email address. Oh, what is that?
Yeah.
So
So
come out on the printout though.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to where you go to check to see who all has taken the test,
Right. Yeah.
that Excel spreadsheet, what I looked at, I think that the PIN numbers wasn't listed. All it gave was the first and last name, if I'm not
right. So
mistaken.
we didn't list the PIN number, and we didn't want to list the email address publicly for security.
Correct.
So Sam, what you can do is if you send us an email with the names of the folks that you need to verify that they're different folks, we can send you a list with their email address included. So we don't want to make that public. We don't, for obvious reasons, we don't want the public just finding email addresses and just sending spam. But if you need the email addresses to show up on that list, shoot us an email. Yeah. We'll pull the list from the back end and email it to you.
All right, that's what I'll do. I'll just wait till we make that completion date, and then we just request that. Because we have like multiple departments, but within those multiple departments, I have a John Henry, maybe 4 or 5 of them throughout the campus.
Yep. So when you get the 30, 60, 90, 120-day report, it will have the email addresses listed in that report. So the lookup tool is public facing, right? So it doesn't have it there, but the report you get from us will have it. So that those 4, that 30, 60, 90, 120 will have the email addresses on it. If you need it in between then, shoot us an email. We can go on the back end and pull it and send you a spreadsheet. But it will have it on the 30, 60, 90, and 120.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Good question.
Good. Yeah, very good question.
Can we request
yes.
a printout before the 30, 60, 90-day time?
Say that one more time.
Can we request a printout that has all that information other than the 30, 60, 90, 120-day mark?
Yes. Yeah. If you just send us an email, you can send it to myself, Jim, Lori, Michael, anybody in OFM. Send us an email requesting the full details, including the email address, and we can send that to you in the interim. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, let's
I'm
look
good.
at the chat. Let's make sure we
Nope, that's good for me.
see if we got anybody sending us a chat.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate your time this morning and your patience from last week. I hope this was informative. But again, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to give us a call, and we'll certainly entertain those after this meeting. But I just want to make sure we try to get as many questions at this part of this meeting, and at least have you go through it with us so that you can explain to your drivers kind of what they need to do.
Also, the last email blast, and the next one will include the links to those guides and handouts that kind of just walked folks through how to navigate to the lookup tool and to the acknowledgement tool itself. Also on that list of references was a FAQ, had about 14 questions on that FAQ. Please send that out to your drivers. Some of those questions are for them, some of them for you. It's kind of comprehensive, but that's going to be really helpful and help in mitigating some of the questions you get, especially for those who have contractors. One of those FAQs addresses the contractor. We will again reach out to each entity that has contracted drivers and work one-on-one with a time frame that is not the same as the 120-day time frame. We will reach out one-on-one to do that. So your contractor should continue to fuel as they usually have, as they normally have, with the same PIN numbers, and everything should be exactly the same. Once we reach out and agree to a certain time frame, then those drivers will follow that deadline and those time frames, and not this 120-day one. So just want to make sure that everybody has access to that FAQ. It's also going to be on our website under documents and handouts, so it'll be there for reference. It's also in the ARI discussion forum. So it's in many places, but we want to make sure that those handouts, those guides, and that FAQ is accessible to everyone, because it's really going to help mitigate some of the questions, and especially some of the repetitive questions that you get. So just make sure you pass that out, pass that around, okay?
Very good. Thank you, Jasmine. Any other questions from anyone? Very good.
No.
Well, thanks, everyone. Yes, Someone have a question?
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, everyone have a good day. Thanks again for joining us this morning. And again, if you have any follow-up questions that you think about, just let us know. We'll try to get those answered for you. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.